Can all take a seat, please? My atomic watch says that we are already 3 seconds too late. Anyway, thank you to be here. I hope that this conference will be useful and interesting for everyone. The title you can see is Sharing the Road with Robot when Motorcycle with Automation. Why we have decided this conference? Because the world around us is going so fast. You will see in a slide that by 2030, many cars will be on the road completely automated with no driver who take control of the car. And motorcycle in all this picture, where will be? So that's it, the team, and that's why we wanted to develop today, and I hope that it will be interesting to you. I wanted to first introduce the speaker that we have, Mr. Frédéric Soudin. He's from Logos. Logos is agency, lobby agency, but take the responsibility of secretariat of different associations, including the 5G V2X. What does it mean? 5G is a new connection system. V2X, it means vehicle to another one. So a motorcycle, a pedestrian, another vehicle, etc., etc. Ms. Anne Fischer is from Yamaha, has worked many years for Yamaha still, and is at the steering committee of the CMC. What is CMC? Is a Connected Motorcycle Consortium. In Europe, they have decided to take care about motorcycles, and the 3 companies who are cars and motorcycle producers, BMW, Honda, Yamaha, they part of the consortium to think about the problem of motorcycle in this kind of traffic. Mr. Antonio Erario from the Italian Ministry of Transport is never in Italy, he's always in Brussels, in Geneva, to discuss about all the problems of safety, in particular with the WP29, and he will also give us his point of view on such major problems and possibilities, because it's not just a problem, it's a possibility, fantastic possibility to reduce the accidents. You know that the major part of accident, the human is faulty. So if the machine takes the control of the human, maybe they make less fault than the human themselves. We will see. Later on, we hope to have Mr. Wim van den Kamp, that is a parliamentary, who always is a keen motorcyclist and follow in the parliament all the matters regarding motorcycle. Unfortunately, his plane is late, so we left him last word. We hope he will arrive in time. We have his presentation, but at the moment, physically, he's not here. We hope that the airplane will be keen with him and with us. Okay, first of all, I wanted also to introduce 2 gentlemen from our Motorcycle Federation, that are Jean-Pierre Moreau, who is the chairman of the CAP, that means the commission who takes the public affairs, all the matter regarding Brussels and road safety, etc., and John Chatterton Ross, who is also a director and is he's from UK, but he knows how to arrive to Brussels quite often, and not just Brussels, because he's also FIM, so he's in Thailand, everywhere where we talk about road safety. So first of all, I want to ask Jean-Pierre to come here to the podium. Thank you.
Thanks, Silvio. I am happy to see you in this room, and thank you to give us a small amount of your time. I am sure that you will get 90 interesting, instructive minutes. We are proud of the range of our speakers, and if I can say that, and can add that, kind of friends for us. The 2 technical teams chosen today are leading in our PTW world, as Silvio says, and this world is really moving very quick. At the national level, as you said, Silvio, we have a very interesting photography of what's happening in Italy, and I am sure you will catch a good idea of one of the most active countries in the PTW use in Europe and also maybe in the world. As I've said, Silvio's your European focus on the motorbike weight in the Union will show you by Mr. Van de Kamp. Thank you for attention and have a good time with us.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. We now wanted to give the floor to John, who will give us a couple of information, apart from the one that probably Mr. Van de Kamp will give at the end of the conference, a proper information of problems that we are facing daily and that we could face in the future. John.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to express my thanks to all of those who work with me in FIM Europe and FIM, both in the team led by Jean-Pierre Moreau and, of course, those who are responsible for supervising our work. Mr. Van de Kamp will be much better to speak to you really about the latest developments in Brussels, so I decided to use my time slot to concentrate on just two really major issues at the moment. And I know that the first one, the case of Vinuk, has nothing to do with road safety, but there are, of course, representatives here from all across Europe who are very concerned about the effect of this on our sport. I'd like to pay particular tribute and thanks to the Autocycle Union, Mr. Chris Hodder, for all the work that he has done so far lobbying on this issue in the UK. He wrote to every single parliamentary candidate, that's 1,600 people, who were standing for Parliament in the recent British elections. I'd like to thank the Finnish Federation, Mr. Kurt Lindqvist and his colleagues who've been very active in discussing the potential outcome of this case in Finland and doing what they can to be prepared for when the law is reformed. Now, in public affairs, sometimes things are more complicated. If we have a new law coming up, we know there's a new law coming up, so we go and lobby on it and make sure that everything is in accord with our needs where possible. The Vinuk case is a bit like a tornado. You see these programs in the springtime from the USA, when these terrible winds come down the center of the USA. Sometimes they knock the house down completely, and sometimes they just go past. And the Vinuk case could be one of those. It could be that the European Commission will solve all the problems that are thrown up by this particular judgment. It'll pass our house by and there won't be any issue at all. The other possibility is that there could be a major crisis and somebody in government in one country decides we're not going to put up with this until the law is reformed and we want to make a clampdown on motorcycle sport and motorcycle racing. We are told, but we've been promised this for well over a year, that in a short space of time the consultation in Brussels will open. The European Commission has not finally decided on whether it wants to do a complete review of the Motor Insurance Directive or whether it wants to do a review that deals with the problems for the insurance industry from the court judgment. And be under no illusions, it's not just motorbike racing and car racing that's a problem. There are issues with things like electric mobility scooters, which a lot of elderly people or disabled people use to travel on the pavements to get to the shop at the bottom of the road. Are these motor vehicles? Under UK law at the moment, no, they're just regarded as a bicycle. It's not an issue. But potentially there could be a problem. The second issue I want to discuss briefly with you is the issue of motorcycle clothing. I'm not talking about racing suits here, that's a separate issue. Many years ago, when this whole process first started, Guy Maitre gave me, then as an FIM volunteer, a very clear instruction. You're to go to Brussels and keep motorcycle racing out of this. It's to be for street riders only. So we faithfully followed that. So it's not an issue for the sport. But from 2018, there will be a new European law which will control the standards of clothing that's sold in motorbike shops as motorbike clothing. Not a t-shirt with Harley Davidson written on that's worn for fashion. But if Harley Davidson sells you a pair of protected jeans with a lining in them and with knee protectors, they'll have to meet a new standard. The whole thing has become impossibly complicated, and there is no way that the average consumer can go into a motorbike shop and make an informed decision at the moment, because the labeling is confusing. Some garments meet the old professional standard, some will meet the new lower standard, some won't meet any standard at all. How is the poor consumer to know? So on the media side of things, we took a decision in FIM Europe that we needed to explain this in clear language. So I won't bore you with the details now, but please have a look at the FIM Europe magazine, which is published this weekend, which reproduces and expands on a recent press release. And I'd like to express my thanks, of course, to all the FIM Europe staff, but also particularly on this issue to Fiumicino, who not only produced this work for us, but also translated it into Italian. She has many journalistic connections, and many thousands of Italian riders have read the FIM Europe story. And that's important because the story is mainly aimed at Southern Europe, because the new kinds of clothing that are light and easier to wear are very appropriate for city use in hot countries. So we hope to make some progress. I've only used 5 of my 10 minutes, so I'm going to use another couple of minutes and then give a bit more leeway to the others. I just want to say something about a good colleague from Norway, Mr. Morten Hansen, who's retiring at the end of this year. And he's with us as a guest and has been present at the meetings today. He's one of the best colleagues we've ever had, and we shall miss him very much. And some of you will possibly remember many years ago, we had a really bad problem in Europe with the Hells Angels and the Bandidos, and a lot of people were killed in Scandinavia. And most of them were criminals, so who cares? I don't care too much about that, but some innocent people were also killed. And Morten put his hand up and said, "Not in our name." And then they threatened his life. Not many people have had the courage to do that, so he's one of the best of all of us, I think. Thank you.
John? We are getting old, you know. We need really to renew the generation of people in FIM Europe also. Myself as the first one, probably. So, okay, thank you, John, because you remain in time. And thank you for the nice word that you said for Morten, that are obviously fully agreed from all of us. And now I wanted to give the word to Frédéric Soudin, who is from Logos, as I told you before. And he will give us a very interesting perspective of the communication problems that will arise in the new automated world. Thank you.
So, Silvio, to move it. I with you? Yes. The next step? Okay, good. Okay, thank you. All right. First of all, Silvio, thank you for inviting me. That's always a pleasure to be in a FIM Europe or FIM conference, especially when they are happening in Roma. So I'm very pleased to be here again for another one. I think last time was probably in Geneva. As Silvio said, I'm the managing director of a company called Logos Public Affairs, which is active in Brussels, and we are indeed managing associations and projects in the field of transport and mobility. And actually, among the projects that we have, actually, we have even a small collections with FIM and FIM Europe in relation to certain activities that are taking place in Brussels. Here today, I'm not coming to talk about FIM activities in Brussels specifically, but more to maybe set up the context for the discussions of today. As a service company, we are also the service company for a new alliance called 5G AA. Actually, even if we see here 5G V2X, but actually the name of the association is 5G AA, 5G Automotive, in fact, associations. And this is an association which is gathering today not every actors, but a lot of actors. First of all, the telecoms company, the one in Europe, but also the one at global level, as well as the car manufacturers. That means not all of them again, but the bulk of them, the German ones, the American ones, and some of them in Asia as well, and what we call the chips company. So every company who may have an interest in the advent in what will happen with connected cars, in fact, in the future. So I'm going to maybe I will go quickly through the slides, because if you told me, okay, you have 15, 20 minutes, I have probably slides for 30 minutes, so some of the slides I'll go very fast, but if you have questions at the end, I'll be happy to take questions, or maybe to take questions during the debate that will take place, in fact, at the end. So here, I don't need effectively to spend too much time. We all know that there is an issue with road traffic fatalities globally. It is a big cost to society. And that's in that context that effectively the advent of communications and computing technologies has started to play a role already, but will play more and more a role into increasing safety for mobility. And besides effectively the safety aspect, that's also something that will help in ensuring that can control traffic, that can improve traffic, etc. But really the big angle for the fact of having connected vehicles coming into the scene is to improve effectively safety of mobility. Here it's the slide about the EU context. We are always trying to explain what's happening in Brussels, but from what you see on that slide here, you can see that effectively the policymakers at EU level, and not only at EU level, by the way, I would say as well globally, started already to give the framework to what's taking place in order to what's being made in order to effectively promote connected mobility. There was a major declarations that was agreed in 2016, the Amsterdam Declarations, laying down the steps necessary in the development of self-driving technologies. A very important public-private partnership was set up effectively in order to create the conditions of cooperation between all the actors. There is a major consultations called GEAR 2030, which is effectively taking place as well in relations to competitiveness and sustainable growth of the automotive industry in order to facilitate the rollout of autonomous and automated vehicles. And the regulatory machine started to, let's say, to set up the regulatory context. There is a 5G action plan, which has been agreed. And now there is a lot of activities going on so that effectively the context can be done and can be ready in order to allow automated cars and vehicles to be effectively put on the market. It is moving absolutely every single day. Probably Mr. Erario will be able to say a bit more on that, but this is effectively something which is now, in fact, taking place. Here, effectively, this is just to demonstrate that, well, there was, on the top of the regulatory context, in fact, taking place, there is obviously a lot of innovations taking place in all the companies. Obviously, the big companies, the OEMs, are making their progress, but we see as well that by making progress, we see as well that there is already cases coming in, like, let's say, potentially accidents. So, which is even reinforcing the willingness of, let's say, the authorities to make sure that everything will be done so that safety is put at the center of, let's say, the regulations and the policies. Safety is becoming, as you all know, in terms of transport and mobility, environmental concerns were at the top of the agenda and do remain at the top of the agenda for the policymakers, but safety is becoming very, very important in their mind as well. So in that context, this alliance was set up, and as I said, 5GA is not only a European alliance, but that's a global alliance. And the alliance is put together for the first time, actually, the telecom sector, so that means the Deutsche Telekom, all the big telecom company, and the automotive industry, in order effectively to develop end-to-end solutions for intelligent transportations, mobility system, and smart cities. 5GA is obviously not the only players. There were already a lot of players, but 5GA, as I will explain after, will focus and concentrate on the developments of new standards, which will be using 5G technologies. You have heard of the evolutions of telecoms technology. We went from 2G, and today we are talking of 5G. To keep things simple, that means in terms of, let's say, ITS system, we are talking of either what we call short-range and long-range, let's say, communications technology, and 5G AA will be dealing with the advent of new long-range telecommunications technology that will be put into at the service of, let's say, connected vehicles. So besides the fact, obviously, that means the telecom industry is already defining the 5G standards. I will not enter details here, but the standards are evolving almost as well every single, let's say, month, and they are evolving. But what we see effectively now, this is that the fact that they are not only working, if I may say so, in an horizontal manner at telecoms level, but they work now at industry level, so more in a vertical manner, by effectively developing standards that can be directly, let's say, implemented for connected vehicles. Here's just a slide showing, this slide is interesting for two reasons. First of all, that shows that these standards or what we speak of connected vehicles, we don't only speak of telecommunications between vehicles, but we speak of telecommunications between vehicles and infrastructure, vehicle and pedestrian, and vehicle to network. So that's actually, the connectivity is something which is comprehensive and which effectively lead to make sure that when you are in a vehicle and a connected vehicle, you are connected to various, in fact, elements. And I wanted to show these slides as well. That's the slides which is being used in 5G communications, because that's just demonstrate to a certain extent, and we'll discuss that later on, that sometimes in the minds of telecom companies or in the minds of, let's say, the car manufacturers, they don't always see the power to wheels into the scene. And that's something that we have been telling them. They are in the scene. That means power to wheels, as you know, are more and more part of the solutions, and they have been part of the solutions for urban mobility. But when we speak of connected cars, maybe sometimes in their mind, they don't always see that, let's say, power to wheels should be part of the picture. Obviously, you see here a bicycle, so that's effectively as well a two-wheeler. But when you listen to the discussions taking place in the working groups, we have to do that means an effort to make sure that the power to wheels are part of the discussions. And obviously, that's something that we are going to discuss later on with Mr. Fischer. Here, without taking too much time, but that's just to give you a concrete examples of what we call, why do we develop connected vehicles? Connected vehicles are being developed for very concrete elements of, let's say, mobility. It can be done for left turn assist, intersections movement assist, queue warning, speed harmonizations, etc. So, and for all those, let's say, use cases, for all those situations, you need effectively to develop very specific, let's say, protocols, equipments, so that effectively those type of things can work out well. Here are some other, let's say, examples. I'm not going to go through all of them. I guess after Silvio will be able to share the presentations with the participants. So, but that's give you, in fact, an idea of what is being made when we speak of automated vehicles. I don't want to go into much details here because we are entering a bit the technicities, but maybe to give you a bit of explanations, when we are preparing those new technologies, that's also include, let's say, discussions with what we call the spectrum, in fact, authorities. So there is ongoing debates which are, in fact, taking place, because at one stage, if we start to use long-range communications into automated vehicles, we need to make sure that the use of spectrum is being made in such a way that will allow the full safety of that use. Here, just to give you an idea of how things are being developing and moving fast, this is here a series of trials and test beds taking place already now. To give you an idea, a few weeks ago, 5G did a review of all the test beds which are existing in terms of automated vehicles worldwide, and we found already something like almost 100 trials which are being made in Europe, in Asia, in North America, in order effectively, and as you can see, some of those test beds do take into account or do see the involvement of, let's say, either OEMs, car manufacturers, telecom company, etc. And again, here, that's something we will see with next presentations more and more, and obviously the manufacturers of power-to-wheels will take part in those testbed activities in order to make the connected vehicles a reality. Here again, that's also a kind of example that just took place recently in Barcelona. So things are taking place so that we can make the test of long-range telecommunications solutions. Don't need to. So as you can see, we are, again, most of the tests are, let's say, concerning safety issues. That means safety is really at the top of the agenda for the developments of automated, in fact, a vehicle. So if I would like to share some preliminary conclusions with you, and after we'll have more time later on to debate, maybe even if things are improving, but we tend to think that PW's industry are maybe not always present enough. Maybe Mr. Fischer will tell me that things are developing and starting now a bit more, but I think there is still room for making sure that there is a full participation in the power-to-wheel industry into what's going on in terms of automated vehicles. As I said earlier, what I was showing with this picture, power-to-wheels are not enough mentioned in the category of vulnerable users, but this is also in this world of mobility, we are power-to-wheels. Bikers are part of the vulnerable users category. Several test beds and trials are in the process of being prepared, but there is still room for establishing liaison between power-to-wheels community and 5GA, and actually this is what we are just discussing before starting this session. And it will be also appropriate to assess whether power-to-wheels should be inserted into EU-backed innovation and test projects. I know that this is starting to be the case. Again, Mr. Fischer will explain what's going on. And I do believe that when you look at what's going on in terms of automated vehicles and connected vehicles, FIM has a role to play. Because with your network, with your ability effectively to liaise with the users, I think you should really follow what's going on and make sure that at one stage, effectively, FIM could be involved. And why not sometimes have joint activities, why not during racing, etc., to make sure that you are being, let's say, connected to this world of, let's say, telecoms evolutions. Thank you very much.
Must thank Federica because I was perfectly on time. I was very much worried, frankly speaking, when I saw his presentation. I thought a disaster, but it was very good. Okay, now, thank you very much. And I wanted to call on the podium Hennes Fischer, who is in the steering committee member of the CMC, that is Connected Motorcycle Consortium. So it's the group of motorcycle manufacturers who really are part in the picture. So that what he will say to us will be very, very important. Thank you very much. Please.
So thank you very much giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about the views of the motorcycle manufacturers. I hope I'm not creating a disaster now. So as you can see in the title, we believe that connectivity will make motorcycling safer. But before I carry on, let me stress a few points. Connectivity, of course, does not only mean motorcycles need to talk to motorcycles. Motorcycles need to talk to cars, need to talk to trucks, need to talk to the infrastructure, and maybe in the future even to other means of transport, maybe trains in the city, or there might be different vehicles in the future we have to consider. Now, bearing this in mind, you can easily imagine that something like that, where we have so many stakeholders involved, is beyond the ability of a single manufacturer. And that is the reason why we joined forces. So, as you can see, I work for Yamaha Motor, but this is not a Yamaha presentation. This is a presentation of the Connected Motorcycle Consortium. And I have had the opportunity to be a member of the steering committee in the Connected Motorcycle Consortium. And in order to push, promote, and give our views, I have several hats. I'm the chairman of the ITS working group in ARCEM, and I guess you're familiar with ARCEM, the European Motorcycle Manufacturer Association. I'm also heading the Power Two-Wheeler group in the Car-to-Car Communication Consortium. Now, the Car-to-Car Communication Consortium is a consortium made of car manufacturers, telecoms, chip makers, and so on. And we have a special group dealing with motorcycles because we need to talk to the car guys, and you will see this later in some of the examples. And also I'm a member of the CITS platform in the Commission, and one of the very few motorcycle experts there. So you can see there's a wide variety of involvement we need to take in order to get this connectivity and this advantage for us working. Why isn't it working? I create a chaos. Maybe it's the wrong way around, no? Ah, I pushed the wrong button. The classic. Now, I'm probably running into open doors with that slide, but I'd just like to stress motorcycles are not just a leisure tool, not just a toy for the boys. Motorcycles have a wide range of usage, as you all know, from commuting to touring and. And we have to consider in our approach of connectivity all these uses. But we have one issue which you are familiar with. Motorcycles do not have a splendid accident record. We have still a lot of fatalities and injuries. And if you look at the statistic which shows you Europe, US, and Japan, you can see that the car fatalities or injuries are going down, whereas the motorcycle injuries are going down, but of course not at the same rate, which might be obvious because we don't have crash or crumple zones. If you crash on a motorcycle, and you're all familiar with that, you'll be hurt, as simple as that. So our approach is we have to do something on active safety. We have to prevent an accident from happening first. And that is why we believe that connectivity will help us a lot in that respect. And if you look at the accident statistics, you will see that the majority of accidents is actually not the motorcyclist who enjoys himself on a country road. It's the motorcyclist who is not seen by another vehicle driver. And mainly the opponent, that's the statistic in the middle, 60 to 90%, depending on the region, is a car collision. And 15 to 30%, again depending on the region, are happening at intersections. And I guess the ones of you who ride motorcycles are very familiar with that. The car driver just simply didn't see you. So that's the typical scenario. 70 to 90% of these accidents are perception failure on the side of the car driver. You know, he may look at you, but he doesn't actually realize how quick the bike comes, how far the bike is away, and he carries on. And there we think we have quite a good opportunity in the future with connectivity. And we coined the motorcycle approach indicator and the motorcycle approach warning as two of the connectivity functions that can help us to solve the problem. Now, before I go into details, I have another slide which is in line with what Fred showed before. This is an Etsy slide, a little bit older, I have to commit, but you can see the world of connectivity. And you see cars, trucks, airplanes, ships, infrastructure, but you will not see a motorcycle. Now that shows you that motorcycles were simply forgotten until some time ago. Now our mission we see in the Connected Motorcycle Consortium is simply to bring motorcycles into the picture and be part of this traffic environment in the future. As simple as that. Now, how are we going to do it, and what are our main goals? First of all, in order to push this, we decided in ARCEM to sign an MOU between all the manufacturers, you can see on the bottom, that we agree to initiate development of safety-related ITS on PTW and so on by 2020. Secondly, I was talking about the Connected Motorcycle Consortium already. Secondly, we signed a cooperative approach on motorcycle safety between the three makers you see here. It's BMW Motorrad, Honda, and Yamaha. And we initiated this consortium to work together, define common standards and common requirements and so forth. Talking a little bit about CMC, CMC is not a profit organization. We are non-profit. We have a global focus. Of course, we have a strong focus on Europe because that's where a lot of connectivity issues are happening. But we realized, and you probably know, that America is very strong as well. So they've passed a proposal for legislation already on connectivity. So we do have a global approach. You need technical expertise if you want to work in CMC, that's obvious, but we will not make development of serious components. So it's really an activity that defines the parameters and not makes hardware. And we will publish our results around possibly 2020 to all manufacturers. And not all manufacturers are yet members of the consortium, but they will all have access to the data because we want to make sure that motorcycles have a common standard and are able to communicate to each other and to the environment and the other vehicles I was just mentioning. About the visions and objectives, I'm not going to read all the sentences. We basically have three main areas we work on. One is promoting and external relations. Yamaha is heading that. That's the reason why I'm here. Unification and interoperability, that means common standards, discussion with the car industry on standards and so on. BMW Motorrad is leading this. And then feasibility and prototyping, that means actually build the bikes and test them on the road, and Honda is leading that. But of course, it's maybe needless to say, we all work together in every of these pillars. So now, what are the main features? I will not show you the day one application, electronic brake light and all this kind of stuff. Since we have limited time, I concentrated on the most important ones, and that is the motorcycle approach indication and the motorcycle approach warning. Now, what are the differences? Motorcycle approach indication means a motorcycle sends a message to another vehicle, in this case a car, and tells him there's a motorcycle in your neighborhood. But in this version, in the early version, the car driver still has to look. So he gets a message, there's a bike, and he's got to look, where is the bike? And then he needs to judge, can I continue or do I need to stop? So this is a simple thing that is a digital help for conspicuity, if you like. And we want to introduce this as a day 1.5 function. So after the let's say the simple use cases, this will be between day 1 and day 2. That's what a day 1.5 obviously is. And it's simpler. But the more effective one will be the motorcycle approach warning, which we consider a day 2 application because it's far more complicated. This use case will not only tell the car driver there is a motorcycle, but there will be an algorithm calculating a potential risk or potential collision, and will then not only tell the car driver, look for a motorcycle, but he will tell him the motorcycle is on the right, and if you continue, you're going to crash. Brake. And you can imagine that this is far more complicated to achieve than the version I showed you before. That's why this is a day 2 version. And I'm not going into technical details. Some of you may, in particular the motorcyclists, will probably say, now what do you do in Rome? There are tons of motorcyclists around. Yes, we know that. It's difficult to find solutions, but we're working on it. As I said in the beginning, we have a lot of stakeholders. This is the last chart and just shows you to whom we need to talk to in order to make this happen. It's the car-to-car communication consortium, which is very important for us. It's the in ARTSEM, where the other manufacturers are joining in the ITS working group, and so forth. ETSI, the European Commission. We had contacts with the US DOT recently because they are interested in what we are doing. We have contact in the Japanese ministries, and we have contact to FIMA, and I'm here now, so FIM is in the picture. So that is basically everything in a nutshell. I know there are many, many topics where you probably have question marks, but it's due to the given time impossible to talk all of them. You can see here finally the members, the current members. We have other members and in particular suppliers, big suppliers interested. And our assumption is that in the course of the next 2-3 months, they will join the consortium. So thank you for listening. And yeah, let's carry on.
Thank you very much. Really clear, and I think that you have a better picture of how difficult will be the future, but how exciting also, and how promising to reduce the accident. Just an information, all the presentation that will be made today will be on our site. Give us just a few days and you can check, you will find all on our site and you can go maybe better. Another information, at 6 o'clock we have to finish the conference because there will be in this same room a Secretary General meeting, but our people, our nice guests, we remain maybe 3 seconds out of, I don't know, maybe more. We hope a little more. So if you have some specific request and we have no time in organizing the Q&A timing, just outside, maybe you can discuss a little bit with them if you need a little bit more information. Okay, now let's go on. Thanks also for the perfect timing again. And I wanted to give the word to my friend Antonio Erario, who is Head of International Regulator Affairs, so our Minister of Transport. And as I told you before, he's living between Brussels and Geneva, sometimes also in Roma. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, first of all, for your kind invitation to participate in your annual conference. I would like to give the point of view of the regulator, since I'm involved in the several fora at European and international level, where this kind of, let's say, problems are under consideration. And first of all, let's start with the other way around. No, this is not. Okay. Yes. just to give you a picture, this is just a way of explaining that motorcycles, both at the construction and circulation rules, are governed by national rules, by the European rules and the European Union, so the Parliament, Council, the Commission, but also at the United Nations level, where the Economic Commission for Europe hosts the Inland Transport Committee, and particularly some working groups dealing with motorcycles and let's say, safety issues. First of all, let's start with the United Nations WP29, which is the World Forum for Harmonization of Vehicle Regulations. Here you will find this slide just a brief historical background, just to tell you that this group was born in 1952, just after the adoption of the first convention on road traffic, which dated 1949. Under this forum, there are 3 agreements which are administered. All of them relates to vehicles. The 58th agreement and the 1998 agreement deals with the construction rules, so with the regulation dealing with the approval, with the certification of new vehicles, while the 97 agreement is an agreement dealing with the periodical technical inspection, so dealing with the in-use vehicles. Since the year 2000, the Working Party 29, that was its former name, became the World Forum for Harmonization, since its membership is now, let's say, enlarged to all the continents, I would say. So there is not only the participation of contracting parties from Europe, but also from other continents. The structure of WP29 is quite complex. In any case, we cover all kinds of aspects, from active safety to passive safety to environmental protection to general safety. There are a lot of group of experts, the so-called GRs, and several official working groups which are set just to deal with a specific subject. This, I said that this WP29 administers 3 agreements. The first one, the 58th agreement, is now signed by 54 contracting parties and has delivered up to now 142 regulations. The 1990 agreement, which was adopted later on, is now at 35 contracting parties and has issued 18 global technical regulations. Just to underline, this agreement was sponsored by United States and North American countries like Canada, since these 2 countries have never joined the 50th agreement. So we used to call the 98 agreement as the parallel agreement. These 2 agreements have something in common. They establish technical rules which are brought in line each other. So if we adopt something under the 58th agreement, then under the 98th agreement, a similar regulation will be adopted, just to have, all the contracting parties on board. And as I said before, the 1997 agreement deals with the periodical technical inspection. This is an agreement at the moment, let's say, operational at, I would say, European level, even if more countries have not signed so far this agreement. So there are expectations that this agreement will then improve and increase the number of contracting parties. What I said before is shown in this slide. As you can see in, let's say, in very different colors, the green covering Europe, for instance, Australia and South Africa, means that those countries apply both the 1958 and the 1998 agreement, while the light green, which is, for instance, visible in North America, refers only to the 1998 agreement. And of course, every every session of WP29, we get normally good news from countries which at the moment are outside the agreements, and we receive information about the plan from the government about joining one or the other agreement. So this is for us our mission, to try to get involved more and more contracting parties. To show you, just for your information, if you want to know something more about WP29, just you may refer to this website address, where this publication title WP29, how it works, how to join it, explain in details in which way one could become contracting parties, or for NGOs, the way to participate as a member of WP29. I remind you that in this group, not only contracting parties from government are attending the meeting, but also NGOs. So we develop regulation, sharing our views with those of industry, generally, broadly speaking. Quite recently, we had a G7 meeting in Italy dealing with the transport. It was held just last week in Cagliari on the 21st and 22nd of June. I just put this slide just to inform you that the declaration which was adopted by all the parties, I underline also the United States signed this declaration, which is not easy nowadays, and a commitment to work also in WP29, but at international level, to develop regulation and to address the problem of automated and connected vehicles was addressed. So there is an engagement from the 7 big countries to work on automation and connectivities, especially on international fora. Moving on to another slide, this is the situation in Italy. Somebody said before that Italy is a big market. We have 6.5 million motorcycles as a fleet, and every year, roughly, we have 200,000 new registrations for motorcycles. Unfortunately, although the number of fatalities are decreasing, as I said also in previous presentation, we still have some, let's say, problems with regard to fatalities involving the so-called vulnerable users, like cycles, pedestrians, motorcycle, mopeds, and the rest is for cars. So we have to work on this area, of course, to improve safety of vulnerable users. And let's say the same figures are, in a way, also confirmed at the international level, where, unfortunately, it is clear that accidents involving motorcycles are mainly caused by other vehicles, and in 60 to 19% the collision is with a car. And also, and this is also important to bear in mind, up to 30% of the accidents occurred at the junctions. So we have to work on to deal with these particular situations. I said also before, and I'm happy to confirm, the connectivity will make motorcycles safer, in our opinion. This slide was also mentioned before. The statistics also, I remind you, we have 1.2 million fatalities at worldwide level, according to the World Health Organization. But we believe that progress in advanced sensing, in communication and computing technology would make it possible to integrate this technology into vehicles, but also into vehicles like the two-wheelers. And this would certainly help to save lives. These are some examples of technologies which are now available on four-wheel vehicles, on cars especially. But one among them, the vulnerable road user discovery, which provides, let's say, the ability to identify potential safety conditions due to the presence of a vulnerable road users such as pedestrians or cyclists. And this is also helpful, in my opinion, for mopeds and motorcycles. Coming back to our fora, especially the WP29 I mentioned before, we are, let's say, working on several areas. First of all, the WP1, which is the working party on the road safety, has recently amended the Vienna Convention on traffic just to address the challenges which are related to automated driving. An amendment has recognized that when technologies are installed on vehicles, and these technologies are certified at the international level, for instance, the regulation by WP29, in that case, these technologies remain compatible with the driver. You know that the Vienna Convention always requires that the driver has to keep the vehicle under control, but the presence of, let's say, automation on vehicles, if certified, would make it compatible with this definition. Also, we made some progress with regard to the so-called self-steering vehicles and also on the remote control parking functions. We adopted recently an amendment to one of the UN regulations, the number 79, dealing with the steering functions, and this will make possible to this vehicle to steer automatically under certain conditions. We also address the problem of cybersecurity and data protection, and proper guidelines have been adopted. This is very important for motorcyclists, in my opinion, and for motorcycle safety. We are now working in WP29 on a draft regulation on driver assist systems to avoid blind spot accidents. The aim is to introduce, first of all, blind spot information starting from heavy-duty vehicles. We intend to start with this vehicle category because sometimes most severe accidents appear when an heavy-duty vehicle crashes into a motorcycle or a bicycle or a pedestrian. This regulation should be adopted, I hope, during this year. And this will certainly bring some more safety on your vehicles, I would say, on two-wheelers. Also, work is underway in the European Union. Most probably we will know more by the next speaker. Just let me say something on two main topics. One is the European strategy on cooperative intelligent transport systems. This is a strategy launched by the European Commission, and the first, let's say, report was adopted at the end of the year 2016. It's a communication from the Commission to the Parliament and the Council on cooperative intelligent transport system. The goal is to make all vehicles in the position to communicate each other, but also with infrastructure. And this, the first, let's say, results should already be available from 2019, which is quite challenging, but it is a goal set by the European Commission. Also, the Gear 2030 initiative, which is ongoing, is quite important. Gear 2030 is a platform established by the Commission in cooperation also with some key ministers around the European Union and the European Parliament. And the goal is to improve the competitiveness of industry, but also to address some of the main topics which are on the agenda. One of them is certainly automation and connectivity. The Commission will adopt, most probably by the end of the year, a document which contains the strategy of Europe with regard to this system. And in my opinion, this will also be a big contribution towards the improvement of safety of two-wheelers. Finally, these slides explain in a nutshell what the European Union would like to achieve. You can see on the horizontal axis, of course, the timing. And on the vertical axis, we'll see what we have to do on cooperative and automotive systems. It's challenging, but I think we are on the right route, on the right track to deliver according to the schedule. So thank you very much again for your invitation and for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Rari. I just wanted to come back one slide and make people... Oh, what is happening? Cosa è successo? Volevo vedere l'ultima slide, quella del diagramma. Scusami. Avanti. No, because perfetto. Sometimes people... okay. Sometimes people do not understand exactly where we are, but look at the dates. We are here. And by here, I mean, if you know a little bit of mathematics, and you go from 2017 to 2030, not 1 century, it's just 15 years less. So in 15 years, the world will dramatically change. And what about motorcycling? If you can just, with your application, call a car just under your house and say, you sit in the car and say, I wanted to go, I don't know where, to the cinema. So many people are scratching their head and they're thinking how the future will be in absolutely short time. Okay, and I want also to tell that Mr. Van de Kamp made a miracle because he left the Netherlands and landed here just in time. Fantastic, just an applause to, because that was really unexpected, I must say. So I wanted to give the floor to you. Mr. Van de Kamp, first of all, is a keen motorcyclist. Second is a member of the Parliament, or European Parliament. But first of all, is a motorcyclist. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Van de Kamp.
Is my presentation somewhere?
Is there somewhere?
Over there.
We make another miracle. You will see that will be a presentation also.
Okay.
Look at it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It was indeed quite a challenge. And to be honest, I misuse a little bit the European air system because I was leaving at 2:30 in the Netherlands and there was a stau, congestion in the airport, so we left at 3. And now I'm here, fresh, motivated, smiling. So it still can be done. So. Ladies and gentlemen, last Sunday I was in Assen, where this bloody Valentino Rossi was winning the GP, the GP for the 10th time, which was rather impressive. There was some rain at the end, but I was so happy that they didn't stop. They didn't stop the race. This is the wrong presentation. This is for tomorrow. Yeah, sorry. But this morning I woke up at 7 o'clock and in the Dutch news was that Harley Davidson has bought Ducati. What kind of world do we live? Unfortunately, I have a Panigale and a Street Bob, so for my collection it doesn't matter anything. But it's like the chairman said, things are changing and quite fast. Ladies and gentlemen, the combination of being a motorcyclist and a member of the European Parliament, that's not always a fine combination. Sometimes it's very difficult, especially when it is about road safety. And now I have to press a button. Yes. I have seen in the other presentations that you spent already quite a lot of attention to these road safety items, but it's really a tough problem for politicians. And when you are not a motorcyclist everything is mixed up. All of us are dangerous: cars, tracks, motorbikes, heavy scooters, urban traffic, and so on. And we put in 2010 this objective to go to and take care, and sorry for my extreme comparison, if you compare this to Syria, 20,000 dead people a year in the European Union, that you can see that there is a political challenge which we really have to handle. And the problem is that in 2016, we have seen that we are stuck now. We are still on 20,500. And that's why the European Commission and the European Council made this so-called Valletta Declaration. Maybe you know Mr. Jean Todt, the former director of Ferrari, and yet, sorry, I'm mixing up a little bit with German, and now this special envoy from the United Nations, and we still have quite a lot to do. Another problem in this area, ladies and gentlemen, is the serious injuries. And we have seen and you have seen in another presentation the figures of the world, I saw, but this is Europe, 135,000 serious injured people. And the whole discussion about the social economic costs of heavy injured people is coming up as well. Because when somebody is paralyzed for the whole of his life, then we have quite a challenge in who is paying that and in which circumstances. The insurance companies become more and more nervous, and there is already in some rooms of the European Commission a discussion about public health and smoking. And who is going to pay the cancer patients who smoked? Is it their own responsibility? Is it the responsibility of the community? And of course, I don't want to compare it yet with motorcycling, but take care what is coming up the next years. Then we see, and at least it's my experience, but maybe we can go on into the discussion, that in urban areas, and especially now with the scooter development, moped development, many injuries happen over there. I don't know all the countries in Europe, and also not in, especially not in the south, but in the Netherlands we see more and more injuries happening in urban areas, and this is one of the points I think we have to take into account as well the upcoming decade. Then, of course, we have the discussion about motorcycles versus what I call the heavy scooters. And you see now that the heavy scooters are also entering the rural areas. And then, ladies and gentlemen, and this seems especially something below the Alps, where is the protective gear? I think FIM has in this element also a responsibility. In publications, in asking for public attention, what is the kind of behavior of the European motorcycle organizations connected to protective gear? Of course you can say it's not our responsibility. Go home and take your personal responsibility. But in the atmosphere around motorcycling, you really have to take care of this element as well. Then, ladies and gentlemen, for me, there is only one solution: training. And that's why I put the logo of the KNMV. I saw the director, the former director is at least in the room, and the other director is phone calling, because some people, their management is by phone calling. The KNMV, I think they developed quite a lot of good courses, and the basic training, let's be honest, is not enough. if you see how you get a driving license in the Netherlands, and I got it after quite a good training, but all of us know, especially when you are on the road, that the basic training for a driving license is not enough. And therefore I make big propaganda for this advanced riding courses. And you know, in the Dutch insurance system, you get a rebate of at least 10% after you did one of these KNMV courses. I think again here, special attention needed for the scooter drivers. Don't underestimate that many people who are not in our world think that scooters and motorcycles is the same family. And that gives also I won't say a bad, but at least an impression that we are not arranging our things in a proper way. Then, and this is really a question for the discussion, but also for the FIM, what are we going to do with the third driving license directive? The first 2 years, the comments, at least in the Netherlands, were terrible. It was killing the motorcycle industry. It was killing 18-year girls and boys to go on a motorbike. But now, especially the driving schools in the Netherlands, they are bloody happy because they have clients who come at least twice for their course. And I promised a few years ago that I was going to kill the third driving license directive in 2018, but now I have become a little bit more humble. And maybe for the discussion later, but also the upcoming years, we have to be very careful, because my first slide, what do politicians think about motorcycle accidents, is still there. And maybe the EU, because you know in Brussels we have about 20,000 very motivated civil servants, and when Brexit is done, they need new work. And maybe, take care, there is another regulation or directive, I think it will be a directive, because in a directive Italy can always do what it wants, what we don't like, of course. Sorry, Mr. Minister, but the truth, the chairman said me that I had to tell the truth, so I'm doing this now, and I'm still alive. So, bon. Let me not exaggerate, because I'm still so happy that I'm here. Ladies and gentlemen, we did a lot. Personally, I was responsible for this regulation in 2014, where we made the advanced braking systems. At that time, we talked to Bosch. And Bosch said for a motorcycle it will be about 1,000 euros, and now it's 80. You see how fast these developments take place. And for ABS on even a fast motorbike, I think we are now with a very good price, and the results up till now, because there is still lead time, the results up till now are quite well. Then this terrible roadworthiness test, in Dutch called the APK. And to be honest, I killed this in the European Parliament, because I was motivated by the FEMA that it was an attack on our liberty. We are ourselves responsible for maintenance of the motorbike, and you can't transfer it to a public institution. I know FIM is a more professional organization, but I'm also a member of the FEMA, and maybe this is also a point of discussion. Yeah, with my Harley, I don't know if I can go to the FIM, so I go to the FEMA. Then, ladies and gentlemen, the OBD1 and the OBD2. And like the chairman said, the developments are so fast. And also in the other presentations, you can see that the technical challenges are so large and fast that we really have to be there to keep, and let me talk for myself, to keep our hobby alive. Last week I spoke to one of the civil servants of the European Commission, and there will be a proposal for e-call on powered two-wheelers. But ladies and gentlemen, and maybe you are more specialist than myself, the e-call will not be in the motorcycle, but in your helmet. Because when you have an accident, and the motor is, for example, 50 or 100 yards away from the body, it's better to have the e-call in the helmet and not in the motorcycle. Let's see what is going to happen. Okay, and then you talked already quite a lot and quite in detail about this connected driving and self-driving cars. In Brussels we have two groups of people. One group of people says for motorcycles it will be a challenge and you will be seen like small children on the pavement. I don't know if this comparison is quite well. But there is also a group of people, and especially in this FEMA working group, they say it's very dangerous. We never can have so many detectors that they can see the motorcyclists in time enough. And about the CITS platform, I saw that that you are informed quite well. And please, FIM, be there. There are many challenges for the FIM to get involved in all these working groups. Be a little bit like a Dutch motorcycle, so no French politesse, but a little bit Dutch, like I do this speech, a little bit Dutch. Thank you.
So I'm very happy to have the opportunity to have here Mr. Van der Kamp, who, as I told you, first of all, is a keen motorcyclist. And he's bringing his passion, but with an intelligent spirit in the politics in Brussels, and is helping us very much to fight against sometimes some stupid direction taken by people who doesn't know our word, and is really helping us, and thank you to be here. On Credible, we are 3 minutes earlier than expected. We have a Q&A session. If anyone of you have anything to ask to our friends who are here, this is the proper time to do. You are all shy? No one want to ask? Please, I think there is a microphone.
Hello. Hello, I'm from the Greek Motorcycling Federation, I'm Motoe. I'm Panos Kalaizis. Thank you all our guests here. There is one point I would like to make, not a question actually. It was half covered by Mr. Van der Kamp about continuous training. He was referring to continuous training of motorcyclists, which is fair enough. But we should also push in this direction for the continuous training of other road users as well. Heavy truck drivers, cyclists as well, and of course car drivers. And because it is proven throughout the history that no matter how clever all the systems that we have on our motorcycles or on our cars, there is no match for human stupidity. It can overcome artificial intelligence. We should push in this direction, and no matter what electronic systems they are in a very safe car or if the driver is texting at that point, or eating a sandwich, or smoking a cigarette, or speaking on the phone, all these things are almost useless. This is my point. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Do you have any reply? If you wanted to say something, you have to push the button on the microphone on the table.
Let me first say I fully agree with you, but I have seen the presentation of Mr. Fischer, so I think this is more your item.
Thank you pushing the ball to my side. The buck.
I'm a politician, you know.
Well, I mean, driver training, as you may know, as ARCEM, we have initiated a rider training program all across Europe. I guess you're familiar with that, maybe. So, yes, we want riders to have training, and we try to offer the possibilities by them selecting a proper school, by giving certain requirements to the schools, and we want to have them certified with certain requirements in order to be sure that there is a good training. That's what we're doing at the moment from the industry side. For the bicyclists, I can't say much. But yes, for motorcyclists, we see the need, of course.
If I can add a point, because the specific point from a Greek colleague was about mobile phone use. And earlier this week, I was 2 days in Geneva, where we were discussing the same subject of automated and semi-automated vehicles. And one of the slides showed what is coming fairly soon, which is a new technology where you can take the hands off the steering wheel in the car for at least a short period of time. If you do it for too long, you'll get a warning like you do if you don't do the seatbelt up. And in this slide, which came from the Swedish Road Authority, they put a picture of a lady texting whilst taking the hands off the steering wheel. And I made the point that most of the colleagues, including myself, had travelled to Geneva by Airbus or Boeing planes. And when the pilot puts it on automatic pilot, I don't think the passengers would be very happy if he announced that he and the first officer are now going to do their personal emails, or we expect the pilots to look out of the window. I expect that driving is a serious matter, and you should look at where you're going. And the final point, I know that most of you do not agree with me on this, but I just make the point to the small proportion of the audience who do. You shouldn't be speaking on telephones when you're driving a car. And the idea that the hands-free telephone is a safe option is simply not true. And the most research that has been done on this subject has been done in France, and it shows quite clearly that talking on telephones and driving cars is dangerous. They did one experiment off-road, I have to say, on a circuit, where they got a number of people drunk and a number of people on phones. The drunks performed better than the people on the phones, because the drunks at least realized that they were drunk.
Mr. Chairman, may I add 2 elements? In the Netherlands, we try to be very a kind of advertisement in the month March, when the new motorcycle season is starting again. We try to have some publications, even advertisements in newspapers, radio, television. Take care, the motorcyclists, motorbikers are back on the road again. So this kind of advertisement may help. I learned always that indeed my perception is one of the most important elements. In the Netherlands you have some Dutch ladies who are 63 years old, and they are originally from Suriname, and they think the highway is only their possession. And there you can see that they are coming to the left without looking, without blinking, and then you know already, okay, this is one of the weak elements. Then there was an idea a few years ago that every car driving license should have a few lessons on a motorbike. But I think that will increase the number of death fatalities even more. But let's be honest, our pilots, our marine officers are trained by this, I don't know the English word, the simulator. Why can't we think about, and it can be even an advertisement for some driving schools, that at least they have some lessons on a simulator to see what is happening and to see what they are doing to us. Thank you.
If you allow me, maybe I add something myself, because with my experience of 25 years in Honda, I was part of the project to develop a riding simulator. And Italian Federation is still using it when they go to the schools. They are contacting many schools, and they make the use of the simulator. And our national army is using the simulator. So before putting the new soldiers who have to use a motorcycle on a bike, they use the simulator. Why? I give you 2 examples of accidents that I've seen myself. In one school south of Roma, one young boy take the bike for the first time with the gears, and he gets scared, and he didn't control anything, and he crashed in a small wall, but he lost a finger. In Honda, we use it to make some presentation of new models in the big cities in the towns, and we give the people the possibility to test the bikes. And one day, one of our employees, a lady, 30 years old, say, okay, I take the scooter and go to the truck, was the other part of the major square, to take some leaflet. And later we discovered that was the first time for her. When she arrived near the truck, she got scared. She could not control the throttle anymore. She crashed against the truck, and she nearly died because he had a perforation of pneu for a stupid accident in a square. The simulator will completely avoid such a kind of accident because it doesn't give you the balancing of the motorcycle, but it gives you the sense of controlling hands and pedals, feet, throttle, etc., etc. So you learn the basic. And if you have a proper program, you learn all the dangers that are on the road. For example, a car stops in front of you, open the door, and bam, this is the accident that we all had when we were young, no? But if you use the simulator, probably you pay, when you are really on road, you pay a lot of attention to do so. So I'm totally favor of the use of simulator. I was part of it, and we developed the program studying more than 10,000 real accidents, and we put on the program. So just as a support of what you say. Thank you. Any other question? Okay, if we can stop here. We are just 2 minutes in advance. That's incredible, never happened. And I thank you very, very much. I hope that this was interesting for you, because I think there is a new door which is opening in front of us in our future. And if any one of you want to make some questions, we will be out of the door. Thank you very much. Thank you.